A very good morning to you, and thank you for staying with us here on Smooth 98.1, Smooth Breakfast with Valentine.
And I am Myra. Say good morning, Lagos.
Good morning. It is time for us to go into detailed analysis of our newspaper stories, newspaper headlines before us from the Punch, the Vanguard, New Telegraph, Guardian, This Day, and others. We will have this analysis done by Godre this morning. Hello, Go.
Hey, morning.
Good morning
Morning,
to you.
Lagos. How are you?
Very well, thank you. And Wade Ring, Nigeria. Good morning.
Good morning, Lagos. Good
Good
morning,
morning.
Valentine. Good morning, Ayo.
Good
Welcome.
morning.
Join them
Sunny day.
on yes, sunny day on Monday. Join them on Twitter. Ugodre is at Ugodre on Twitter. Wade is at Ring Nigeria on Twitter. Use the hashtag FreshlyPress91 to send your messages.
Also, we can send your message to WhatsApp on 0809 444 0981. That's 0809 444 0981. On YouTube, we're streaming live, so please kindly use the live chat option to send your messages and also watch what's going on in the studio.
I'll start with you, Godre, for your analysis on this story from the Guardian newspaper. The Guardian reports that the National Assembly's reworking of the 2020 budget is allegedly threatening the 12-month cycle. They said they have been under pressure to rework that fiscal budget to make it more impactful on development projects for the betterment of Nigerians. A lot of English. What does this mean, really? Are they essentially telling us that we're not going to go back to the normal January to December cycle? What's this?
No, Valentine. This is just basically the National Assembly in quote doing their job, right? So typically, when the executive arm sends their budget to the National Assembly, you expect the budget to be, split into different committees, and then they go in and then they start to dissect the budget. And in doing that as well, they need to also look at budget performance last year and then in previous years, so that they can determine how effective the 2020 budget will be. And you know clearly that over the years, government comes out and says, "Oh, we're budgeting 8 trillion this year," and at the end of the day, they end up doing maybe 50 or 60% of that budget. And what typically suffers is capital expenditure side of the budget. So the senators are saying, look, and I quote one of them here, says, government typically does not fulfill budget requirement during the year. So things like water, health, education, agricultural sector is actually not catered for completely. So of course, recurrent expenditure is usually 100%. If it's possible for them to do more than 100%, they do more than that. But the key areas where you need budget implementation done, you typically don't do it. And some senators who representing some other states, some states are saying, look, if, for example, in my own area, there's no money. More money was released for key projects in the last 3 years, even though they were captured in the budget. So what then is the essence of the budget? But something here that was kind of telling Valentine was a lawmaker who they say chairs a very strategic committee central to the economy, told the Guardian that the work at hand required a more complete overhaul of the 2020 bill. Now, this is where it was a problem because when you say you want to do a complete overhaul, then you're basically saying, look, let us go back to the drawing board, and then start all over again. And once that is done, we miss out on the calendar year cycle that we are looking towards, and that's it. But you really don't blame them because it's not for you to just submit this huge budget document and people are saying, look, does it really work? I mean, can we really do implement this budget? Your revenue targets, you haven't met it over the last 4 to 5 years, and most and this is because of tax related issues, funding related issues, price of oil. So there's so many things going against you. So your budget is just too optimistic, at least on the revenue side. So can you really fund a lot of all these projects that you put in the budget? And then there's something else they say here that I think people have been noticing, and people have been talking about this for a while, and it's now becoming more serious. And this is the exchange rate, multiplicity of exchange rates. So they're also saying, look, according to this legislator, use of different exchange rates aside from the 305 to the dollar by the Central Bank of Nigeria to fund some projects across the country. So they found out that there are some projects that they are doing, they'll use 305. There are some they'll use 326. There are some they'll use 360, some 330. So what exactly is happening, and how does it, because at the end of the day, this is state's money. So government gets oil revenue, converts it at 305, right?
Mhm.
And then keeps and the naira, and then shares the naira to states. So states are like, look, what if you had converted it 360? Then that probably means more
More money
cash,
for
right? So yeah, but then you're not doing this. You're saying that you're converting at 305. However, when you're disbursing these funds for various projects, you actually use different exchange
Which
rates.
is why one of the senators or last week mentioned, and one of the ministers also re-echoed that thought. You know, expressing worry over how different ministries and agencies have quotes, different quotes for the same services that they give. As you
Yes,
know, these are the cost. This is the cost of services that we pay for and everything. And there's a disparity. I mean, it doesn't make sense for people, staff in the same office, one staff goes to buy a ream of paper for 3,000 naira. The other staff goes and says it's 5,000 naira.
5,000 naira.
So the underlying thoughts or suspicion will be of corruption. But
yeah.
then what you just said could be interpreted as leading to such, don't you think?
Absolutely.
Yes.
MI from Akoka says it would be overly simplistic for us to move from status quo to the proposed cycle in practical terms in one fell swoop. In fairness to the National Assembly, they have to do their due diligence, which is what you said, Ugo. We rather have an efficient budget than a pretty January to December cycle budget.
Exactly. That's just
Beyond
overly
looking
optimistic.
nice.
Yeah. It has to be effective, and,
Yep.
and that's the whole idea.
All right. You started by saying they are doing their work, so I think that's
Just
a
one
bit
thing
yeah.
though, they're still doing their work behind closed doors. So in
Mm-hmm.
terms of transparency, I mean, we've had this conversation with regards to not allowing the media in, not letting be transparent.
And you got to let them do their work, right? I mean, that's what they're elected for. At some point, when you probably start to have all these public hearings, then you can have the media come in. So let's just hope that they're actually doing their
Doing their
work.
work.
Beyond hope, though, the Nigeria Labour Congress is asking or has spoken to the Assembly in unequivocal terms, saying that the state houses of assemblies should impeach any governor who refuses to pay the new minimum wage of 30,000 naira. They're also recalling that it's enshrined in law. This is the amount that the federal government has agreed to and signed, to pay as a matter of commitment. But they're saying, I mean, going through this, right, is not a bit extremist. What do you think? What are the consequences that could?
First, two things. Federal government has passed it as law as
Mhm.
10,000. States have kicked back on. Some states have kicked against it. Those are the two things that are happening.
Yes.
Secondly, the main question here would be the states who are willing to pay, have they put it into their budget for the year? Because once that is done and then the governors don't pay, then it becomes an issue which becomes an impeachable offense, or which can become an impeachable offense. If the states, however, have not budgeted for this, then it becomes a bit difficult for you to tell the national assemblies or the state assemblies to impeach such governors, because already there's a backlash of some states saying, okay, we can pay. Some say we can pay 22,000 and so on and so forth. So we also need to look at all these things, and NLC also have to sit down with these states and at the state level to discuss these issues and say, okay, what are the possibilities of paying these monies? Because it's not just you giving a blanket approval and say go and pay. And like we said just now, in terms of the roads, some are budgeted for at 305, some at 326. So the state goes into a contract with the contractor, it says it's 326. The government gives you money at 305. And these are the things that are happening with this. Will this be practicable? Possibly. For me, if these things had been put into your budget, then it becomes an impeachable offense if you don't pay. It means that you are owing people who have worked and you're not paying them their dues at the end of the day. Those are the things I see with this. But that blanket issue of the states calling on the state, I mean NLC calling on the state assemblies to impeach any governor who doesn't pay because the federal government has signed it.
Wouldn't you see?
Can't
I
fly.
mean, could,
It's
I mean, the next question
it's
I
a
have
bit
in my mind is
tricky.
just is more rhetorical than
All right, so
expecting.
I just want to ask the question. I know that it might not be an impeachable offense yet, but shouldn't we start to look at governors who are not able to creatively generate income for their states? Shouldn't that be one of the key indices that we use to measure their performance?
Let's be careful about creativity of generating money when it comes to revenue generation, especially in states. We've seen over the last 12 months, everybody's complaining about the kind of charges we're getting through the financial sector. Now, the burden that you're placing on these same people within the states who are going to pay these monies, what is the level of of income that they have towards paying these things. You're already paying your income tax, you're paying all different kinds of surcharges at the local government level, you just name it. So creatively making money is one thing. However, when you look at the resources that you have, how can you turn it into money generating ventures, whether it's through public-private partnerships
Exactly.
or so on. But we need to be more transparent in doing these things. So it's not just calling Ugo as my friend who is a contractor and say, okay, let's do PPP. So let's sit down and look at what we have within the states that can help us
Yep.
generate
And
more.
I think
more
what they just hit
efficiently.
the nail there is actually PPP. So let's not misconstrue things, because a lot of times people say, look, states need to increase revenue. You just don't increase revenue by taxing people.
taxes.
So you got to go into very solid PPPs. You got to open up your state's economy for private sector businesses to come in there, because when they come in there, then they can move employment. You can start to employ people within your state, and then states actually make a lot more money from payee, not from
That's pay as you
corporate
earn.
taxes.
Yes.
Yeah, pay as you earn. So because if you have industries within your state, then you can have a lot more
So create
employees, yeah, in there, and then you start to recoup tax revenues.
Thank you.
I guess the conversation really should get to a point where the political offices will be less attractive, because going by what you said, what the creatively looking at things, creativity, according to Albert Einstein, is intelligence having fun.
Yes.
But then you get to ask how many governors are intelligent enough to understand the kind of resources they have within their states to generate revenue. But let's go to more stories. This time around, Ogo, I'd like you to take us through the story report from the Guardian newspaper talking about the National Identity Management Commission partnering with the World Bank and other international organizations to ensure registration of all Nigerians by birth or naturalization. The initial conversation was around lack of funding to produce the cards themselves. But take us through the story to see if there are other areas that we are not seeing.
I like that. Other areas that we're not seeing. So maybe I should start with that one. And the area that I'm not seeing is that we are probably not seeing is what exactly does the World Bank, European Union, Food and Drug Administration got to do with national identity card? It's like, did the World Bank do this for the US? Are they involved in their social security? I mean, we got to be careful about these things, because this is data, and data is huge, right? So when you start to get these foreign agencies that people have often suspected them of maybe fronting for the Western powers or Western economies coming in and helping with gathering Nigeria's data of 200 million people, that's huge. You gotta worry. So it's an incentive that I'm really not sure of now, but intention is fine, right? So which is basically you don't need to have. It's not necessarily about the card, right? What what it's just like having your social security number. And we've always said it's very important.
Yes.
But I really don't know why this is so difficult though, because we've seen how NIBS and the CBN, successfully executed BVN. So I mean, what you just need to do is just put in some roadblockers. Like if you're gonna do anything in Nigeria, they would always ask you for your NIN. So the next question is, where do I get my NIN from? Then you have centers, there are local government agencies everywhere, there are government parastatals everywhere. Go into one of these places, and then you get your NIN. Maybe using your birth certificate, because in the US or in most of the countries, your birth certificate that actually shows whether
from the day you were born.
From the day you were born, whether you're actually a citizen of that country, or at least from birth. So when you go with your birth certificate, then they give you your NIN. I mean, these things are not complicated. I don't see what you need, World Bank or some of these guys.
International collaboration.
Yeah, for except that maybe you need them so that people
So
will
that
chop
they can-
money. That's why I said it depends on the incentive.
Maybe they also
Because
need
if you
to
allow
bring
us,
the
they've
money.
chopped so much money from this NIN from the days of Obasanjo. They've been chopping. So now all of a sudden they're saying, oh, guess what? You guys don't need cards anymore after they've chopped the card money. You don't need cards anymore. All you just need is number. Of course, that's all I've always needed, just the numbers. What the hell am I doing with the card? Do you understand?
I'm glad
when
you
I have a
mentioned-
driver's
I'm
license.
glad you mentioned the areas that will start to need NIN, and this is for those who haven't registered.
Yeah.
According to this report, they actually mentioned that for you to get a passport, your you're going to be asked for your
NIN,
NIN.
Yes.
exactly.
And of course, now JAM has said that
For you to register for JAM, you got that's how. Yeah, exactly.
Similar to how they drove the registration for bank verification.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So just create all those blockers there, and then people won't have any choice but to get NIN. Then also, if you're going to vote,
But you
things
also-
like that.
You also have to make it very easy for people to get these things.
Yes.
Yeah, that's why I said have centers all over.
Which links us very nicely to our next story, Wadi. From New Telegraph, the reports that the Business Express. Oh, actually, we actually had a Business Express conversation earlier about the federal government's extension of the border closure to January 2020. They're saying they are going to extend it to the 31st of January. Looking at this, we have some bodies that are throwing their weight in support of this move by the federal government. It brings to question what their benefits could be. Your thoughts on this? We have the Nigerian Association of Chamber of Commerce, Industry, Mines, and Agriculture.
And the Manufacturers Association.
Thank you very much, Wadi.
Well, there are two things here. Those who support it, which is the likes of Nasima and Man, is the fear of the fact that you bring in goods that they can produce in Nigeria that are probably cheaper and all, because the cost of doing business in Nigeria is much higher than probably if you import this thing. Those who are against it are saying that a lot of the things that they need to plan for in terms of raw materials that they have to get and stuff like that cannot come in as at when due. Both sides are right. On the people who say the border closure is detrimental to business, two things. How is it detrimental to their business? Because if you plan properly and you go through the right processes, are you with me? Then you would get these things in time as at when due. So your planning has to factor in the fact that border closure doesn't mean that things can come in through the border. It just means that things have to go through the proper channels to come in through the border.
But to answer your question, speaking for those who were taken by surprise, and that's about every Nigerian, when the border was closed, a lot of businesses were stranded. People were stuck at the border. They couldn't cross, not just with goods, but themselves, people who had to go to work.
So what it then means is that the process itself by the customs to close the border, closing your border doesn't mean people cannot come into. Right. What it just means is that it is stricter for you to ensure that the person who is coming in. So if you were a Nigerian that traveled and wanted to come into Nigeria on Monday morning to come and work because you were flying, or you were going by road and you're going to get in by 5 a.m. so that you could get to work. What it then means is that the customs and the immigrations and everybody had to be there.
Checks and balances.
Exactly. So it still brings us back to the questions that we'll continue to ask. What are the processes for doing these things? Because if you put these processes in place, you only close borders when there are things relating to maybe migration,
or
smuggling, or even war and those kind of things. So both sides have an argument, but I still think the customs, immigrations, and all should do their processes properly and let people come in who are supposed to come in.
Like I said, just tell us what exactly do you intend to get from this? How much do you want to save from this? Is it $1 billion? Is it $2 billion? How do we measure you whether this thing has actually worked?
That's another thing.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Opemi Praise, talking about the impeachment call by NLC, says impeachment has never been a deterrent to the political class at any level. The process of impeachment is very complex. NLC should stop calling for impeachment as a means of control. Then Shegun says if governors do their jobs properly, Nigeria's problems will be reduced by 90%. There'll be less mass migration to 4 major states. And then Rainmaker said, see the fine analysis Oadian will give to revenue creation at state level. I'm sure they're not the first to say this, but can our political elite start taking these things seriously? Another thing is that some constitutional provisions still hold them down from doing this. True, creativity is intelligence having fun. Our governors are not creative enough. I can assure you they are having fun. So it's like a zero-sum game for them. So one without the other. Let's move on to our next story. So ICPC, that's the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, has arrested 2 key federal government officials over diversion of 68 million naira school feeding cash. Now, this is part of the social intervention program by the federal government, and this happened in Kogi State. The ICPC spokesperson, Rashida Okoduwa, has said a few things regarding this. The 2 persons involved are Agoda Ibrahim and Kaijat Karibo. And they've talked about the fact that a huge sum of money was diverted by these 2, but that the governor wasn't aware. Please, can you take us to the story?
We continue to talk about transparency in all these programs. There are quite a number of programs that government is running, the school feeding, the Empower, and so on and so forth. What is the process? Because for these two people, one left the service last year and is still claiming, they're still diverting funds along with the current project manager. How do you go about these things? If this person did not blow the whistle or write a petition, nobody would know that these things are happening. How do you become part of the program? How do you ensure that payments made to you are the right payments? Are there deductions that have already been set out clearly? Excuse me. We don't, a lot of us don't know these things. So it's difficult for even the public itself to help you monitor a lot of all these things. What does the school feeding program entail? Who are the people who can benefit from it? So that at the end of the day, when people start to complain, we can tell you that, oh, Mr. A or Mr. B did not do the right thing and is not doing the right thing. So this is good, but it goes beyond, like I continue to say, it goes beyond the rhetoric of saying we're fighting corruption. You can't fight corruption if there is no transparency. And that's what I see with this. There's so many loopholes for this kind of things to happen. Exactly. This is not the first place. It happened sometime. We spoke about it.
It happened in many
about a month ago, somewhere. I think it was in Ogun State or so. But these are the things that we're talking about. These officials will not have this access if everybody knew from the onset what are the things we're paying for, what are the charges we're going to be charged. Because you just come up one morning and say, okay, you're charging XYZ for supplies. Who are the suppliers? Are they properly registered? Do you have a proper database of all these people who are supposed to be in this thing? And these are the key questions from here. But the good thing is that the petition is being worked upon. The ICPC has said that they're carrying out their investigations, and these two persons will be charged soon. So.
Brilliant. I'm glad we've mentioned the consequence, but we're rather interested as well in prevention. And you talk about processes. In many programs around the world, what you see is that there's a clear, transparent process. So if you talk about Oxfam, if you talk about the EU, when they do social investment programs, you have to keep your receipts to the last penny for a period of about 8 years, even after the life of the project. Yep. So when you talk about loopholes being available, that's a critical factor. Why are there easy ways for them to divert 68 million naira for a school feeding program?
All right, message here from Yinka. It says, why do we even need the school feeding program? I gave birth to my kids and it's my duty to work, earn, and feed them. The duty of the federal government is to enable me work. Last, this whole program will end up in fraud, is what he says. And Adar comes back to speak to the border closure issue. He says, no exception is made to legal entities. My company exports legally to a number of West African countries, and we've recorded losses since August.
Thank you very much, Ada, for your comments. Okay, I'll come to you for this. Sarah urges probe into use of LG allocation. It's not the first time we're talking about how transparent or not transparent the local government spendings have been. Still talking about processes, checks and balances when it comes to fund allocation. Can you please take us through the story?
Let me start by putting something Sarah said here. And they say over 15 trillion of federal allocation meant for provision of public goods and services by councils have been allegedly mismanaged or pocketed by state governments, council chairmen, and the authorities of the Federal Capital Territory in the last 12 years. 12 years. So they've excluded some other years of democracy in the last 12 years. So I think that it's not surprising. You're not surprised when people tell you that, states and local governments are basically the cesspool of corruption. And the reports like this basically just highlights how corrupt a lot of all these local councils are. And this is ironically why there are some states that were against direct funding of local governments. Yeah, a lot of states, this was their argument. And it was like, look, these guys are corrupt like us. It's just that you can't hold them accountable, right? So, and it's difficult to monitor their activities. So you give local government, typically, back then, I don't know if it's still true, but what I used to hear then is that once the money just comes from the state, the local government guys and their councillors, they all sit together. The money is put on the table, shared. Everybody just takes off, and they don't see them again till the next
Next allocation.
next time they want to
Next
share money.
cycle of money.
Yeah, it's a good report. I think that we need more reports like this, but action is actually needed.
You know why it's very easy to believe this, Ugo? And let me
Yeah.
ask you, what have you seen your local government chairman
Exactly,
do? What
do.
are the projects that they've done?
So
And
what
how do you hold them
they
to
that
account?
baby ball, you know,
And
come on,
toilets.
yeah, the one ball.
But beyond boreholes, we've seen interlocking tiles, or rather interlock
Okay.
tiles on certain streets
Or Pleasant Street.
in
But-
Victoria Island, for instance.
One last thing I would like to say about this is this: where the especially with the elections to local government councils,
Yes.
one of the things I see, and this is my opinion, is because a lot of the elections are not done with properly, where the people within the ward actually vote.
Actually vote.
And I'll share my experience just briefly. When the first elections, when the new democracy came in and there were local government elections, one of the things that was very obvious was that a lot of people decided to participate in the elections. Most of the wards and the people in the wards were beginning to hold their local government members accountable. They were beginning to see that they couldn't win next elections because they didn't do the right things. And if we go back to that process, it might just help us rather than just say, okay, the state government says, well, I will allocate what I think you should be doing.
Thank you.
Abiola is sending messages on YouTube. The first one says it's important that these governors go beyond the monthly federal allocation committee, or FAC or rather, and double taxation. Every state has potential of generating revenue, but these governors have refused to creatively look at them. Why should state governors claim that they do not have enough to pay civil servants, but I haven't heard that they are owing any unnecessary political appointee or aides? Interesting.
And their pensions. Let's not
Mhm,
forget their
mhm.
pensions. All right, let's move on to our next story. Ugo, CBN to recover 36 billion naira loans from Northeast farmers. Punch newspaper reports. Can you please take us? So, Central Bank has inaugurated a committee in all local governments in the Northeast to recover the said sum advanced to farmers. The loan facility was advanced through the Northeast Commodity Association and part of the Anchor Borrowers program. Please tell us.
It's just that there's no time. This is very painful.
Mm.
I'm just what I don't get here is, why is CBN inaugurating a committee to go and collect loans that you've given out? And this is why people are saying, look, are you a bank or are you a regulator? There are some guys that have been calling for a split. Why don't you just have a CBN that is some kind of bank, and then it's another version that is a regulator? Like, for example, you have the Federal Reserve and then you have, their own regulators, because you can't have all these things happening. And intervention funds today are over 1.5, 1.6 trillion. So that's a lot of money. And how are you sure we're going to actually get back some of these funds because of these things? And you're giving money to farmers that you probably are not sure if they're going to pay back. And guess what, Valentine? Here's what they said here. They said one of the guys who was, I guess, supposed to be in the committee, or someone from CBN, says, we expect to recover at least 80% of the loans from the farmers. So they've already housed up on 20%. They've told you 20% don't go.
Oh, there's a bad debt already.
There's
Alright.
supposed to be a monitoring team when you're issuing loans. All I know is that they're going to put somebody responsible from that end.
Case
people
closed.
granting you
Put
the
these
loan.
things through the proper banking
Case closed.
system. End of story.
Thank you, guys. We take a few messages before we go. Alhaji Adamu says, please, our borders should not be open for now until our so-called neighbors learn their lesson and respect us. January's presidential deadline is too lenient, is what he thinks. And another one here.
All right, Tammy from Gorada says, as regards transparency, we really need to make our leaders accountable. All governors should always hold a monthly press briefing.
Okay. Special thanks to you, Godre, at Godre on Twitter. What is at Ring Nigeria?
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your analysis. Please let's continue the conversation on social media. The hashtag is freshly pressed 91. My name is Valentine Ohu.
I'm Ayo Mairese.
Next is the locker room where we talk sports here on Smooth 98.1.